Hey, What Next listeners? To celebrate the holiday, we are taking a little break from the news. Hopefully you are too. And we're going to bring you an episode of ICYMI, Slate's podcast about internet culture. Since it's Labor Day, the episode you're about to hear is about the return of the girl boss. I'm sure you remember the girl boss era of the 2010s, complete with plenty of merch and motivational slogans. You might also remember that the meteoric rises of some of these girl bosses were followed by very public downfalls. But now, girl boss culture seems to be returning. In the past few months, some of the main figures of the girl boss era, founders of companies like Outdoor Voices and The Wing, have reappeared. Slate's Scaachi Koul and Kate Lindsay discuss in this episode why girl boss culture is making a comeback now and why it just doesn't seem to be hitting in the same way it did a decade ago. We're going to be back in the feed with more What Next, starting tomorrow. Meanwhile, here's ICYMI.
Hey, I'm Kate Lindsay.
And I'm Scaachi Koul, and you're listening to ICYMI.
In case you missed it.
Slate's podcast about internet culture.
Scaachi, number one, welcome.
Thanks.
It's so good to have you here as a co-host. I feel like I'm kind of scamfluencing right now.
A little. We're all ripping someone off.
Oh, I should have. I'm watching you immediately. You brought a Diet Coke in. I should have brought mine.
Ready to go.
I brought my water in my Rise and Shine mug because that felt appropriate for today, but I won't jump the gun because I do want to talk about one other thing before we talk about today's larger subject. And it actually is because you are a host of Scamfluencers that you are the first person I wanted to talk to about the Anna Delvey abandoned bunnies controversy. Have you seen this? Are you familiar?
I think so. Anna Delvey did a photo shoot in Prospect Park in Brooklyn, I believe, and with a bunch of rabbits.
Yeah.
And the rabbits have been left
So what's
amok.
interesting, for those who weren't tuned in sort of the first era of Anna Delvey is kind of perhaps one of the women who kicked off this sort of scamming obsession. And really what she did was just kind of grift her way in hotels. What was it? It was hotels and it was like restaurants and just living way above her means off of other people's money for a very, very long time.
Yeah. And she was just sort of like a vaguely foreign party girl in New York who was stealing people's money and going to nice restaurants and dressing like she had recently destroyed all of her mirrors.
Yeah, yes. And did we ever get to the bottom of her accent?
No, and I don't think we ever will. I don't need to know.
Yeah, again.
It's not necessary. I know that it's there. But it was like a big cut story and everybody was tripping over themselves about it.
Yeah. The bunnies traveled because the photo shoot is on West Broadway in Soho.
Oh.
But the bunnies were found in Brooklyn in Prospect Park. And so basically what happened is first this saga started in like the rabbit rescuing community in New York City, where, you know, it was posted on Facebook. These abandoned rabbits were found. Some rescuers managed to get them, and they're all in safety now. So this story, no rabbits are really harmed. But at the end of the week, this photo shoot gets posted of Anna Delvey with rabbits like on a leash and stuff, and she's in the city. I don't even know if it was for anything. It just kind of seems to be like for her Instagram. But those rescuers noticed, because I think they were sent the post, like, wait, those are the rabbits we just rescued. And they went public with it. They were like, these rabbits were dumped in, again, Prospect Park, far away from Soho and Manhattan. And initially, Anna and her assistant, they were all in the comments being like, no, the rabbits are back where they came from with their owner. They're really healthy. You're lying. And then like a day later, the assistant came out on Instagram stories and was like, actually, I did dump the rabbits. What seems to have happened is they were having trouble sourcing the rabbits. And so in this effort to like find the right one, what they actually did was take the rabbits from someone who had advertised that they were surrendering rabbits. Like they did not want the rabbits back. And so I guess this assistant or whoever, however many people were aware, were like, okay, well, we'll deal with that problem later. Let's just start with the rabbits and have them, and then we'll figure out where they go. They do this photo shoot. And yeah, then they appear to be dumped. And we see all this come out, and it seems like, you know, we see text messages where Anna is like horrified that this happened. But then the rescuers are like, posting about the rabbits, kind of doing press about it. And Anna is now harassing them on Instagram with like legal action. And so, I don't know. I guess this is the first time I'm realizing that Anna character, I don't know if she's trustworthy.
Jesus Christ.
Where do you stand on Anna these days?
I don't care. Like, I'm actually offended by the lack of ingenuity in this phase of her scam. Mm-hmm. I'm bored. Like, you did Dancing with the Stars and you're going to eat a bunny? All right, whatever.
She's shown herself to be so much more savvy and creative than what we're seeing.
Yeah,
now.
This is really mundane. Like, I think we have reached a bit of a saturation point on the scammer stuff, which is good and bad. But one side effect is like, it's not enough just to have a weird accent and steal some money anymore.
Right.
Like, do you know how many stories like that we don't do? Yeah. Because we couldn't do all of them because they just are kind of the same thing.
Right, at a certain point.
I need her to do something. Like, join the circus. Start a fight.
Well, that's a question, I'm wondering if you run into this, where it is like, you know, the scammers get famous for the scam, but usually it's because they're facing consequences for the scam. Like, they don't just scam again. Like, they're like, no, I'm reformed. But then obviously that makes them uninteresting.
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't really even know what to make of her. She hasn't made anything from what she did. Mm-hmm. She's just not that interesting.
I know.
The more interesting characters even in her story are the people who allowed her to run them over. Like that's like the woman who kept giving her money. Right. Like that I still need to talk to her.
I'd
personally.
love to talk to her with some personal requests.
Yeah, but the scam artists themselves, unless they're doing something where the scam is particularly interesting or they are really good at lying to themselves, like I don't know. What is she doing?
I wonder if a new contender is this 19-year-old assistant who was like...
Yeah, honestly, I'm really open to hearing more about the assistant.
Next-gen scammers.
Yeah, and I dumped the rabbits in Soho. Right? Amazing.
And then doing kind of mea culpa on Instagram. It was like a notes app statement that's like, it was me.
Yeah.
And it was very much like, I'm 19 years old. I'm still learning.
Honestly... Yeah, I mean, she's 19. Yeah. I guess she thought they're rabbits. They'll find their way. And they did. They made it to the park.
But Anna Delvey is not the only female public figure trying and failing, perhaps, at a redemption arc. But before we dive into that, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about why 2025 is being dubbed the, quote, revenge of the girl boss, and the female founders who are attempting their comebacks. And we're back, and it is time to talk about the revenge of the girl boss. And I'm going to get into what that means, but I want to start with a broader question because I'm actually just sort of personally curious, Scaachi, what was your experience with girl boss culture? Like, would you ever have referred to yourself as a girl boss earnestly in your life? This is a safe space.
No. No. Yeah, I found all of that, the books, the boss bitch banners, the I'm a feminist nameplates that people were selling, the votive candles, the rise and grind mugs, in that particular font that you always find at a TJ Maxx.
Yes,
you find a cookie jar and you're like, this is so cute, and then you turn around.
Yeah, and
like,
then you find out it says something on it.
The font says cookies.
Yeah.
No, I didn't. I never really engaged with any of it. It just seemed so aggressively. It felt like a bunch of women who were allowing themselves to be drawn by men. It was like it was like a man's version of what they think a woman in a workplace should be like.
Yeah.
So it was like a lot of the same bullshit that like the most abusive male bosses would do, but everybody's like wearing a tight skirt.
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't speak to me. It was like all that was happening around the time I was just entering the workforce as well. So I was starting to encounter those women. Lean In had just come out, and I had a boss that made me read Lean In. Like that, I didn't understand what it was trying to communicate to me.
So this is interesting because I think I was just a couple years behind, but I went full send.
You did?
I will own it. I was
wow.
I had the shirts. I had like an embroidered think, like,
I've always been curious who was the person. It was you, huh?
No, I mean, I remember I had a girl's quote embroidered and hung up on a wall. It was, I may be deflowered, but I'm not devalued. I read Lean In.
Did it work?
Yeah, I'm amazing now.
Did it like but did you when you were consuming those things, did you feel like this is putting me in my power? I was always curious about that with people.
I did at the time.
Yeah.
I think where it is weirdly really preserved is the Tumblr I had in college. Every like Parks and Rec quotes and like, I mean, it's like very, I guess like the Venn diagram is very millennial. Like it's hard to differentiate at some point. But I mean, I watched Girls. I read Lean In. What's the Tina Fey one?
Oh, Bossy Pants.
Bossy Pants.
Bossy Pants was a bit of an outlier, I think.
Yeah.
That was just those were stories about her just being annoying, which I respected so thoroughly. But yeah, that's really interesting.
I came out of it because I joined the workforce similarly in the midst of this and was in the Girlboss factory. And I fully bought into it pre-workforce, dove into the workforce being like, I'm living the dream. Like, this is exactly where I want to work and nothing bad is ever going to happen to women again. And it's thanks to me. And then I get into the workforce. I get into this Girlboss female-led space and you know, the tale is old as time at this point. That is not how it pans out. And I definitely was spit up and chewed out on the other side with like a very different perspective. And yeah, now I look back, I mean, sometimes I'll come across either in photos or like in like digital relics of this like version of me that was very much like, you know, like fight the patriarchy, like the fight, like the Taylor Swift lyrics, like throwing the fight the patriarchy keychain on the ground. I'm like, I probably had one. Yeah.
Jesus. Okay.
Like it's she's such a stranger to me. But it's not that I wouldn't say I'm not, very much would not say I'm not a feminist anymore. And I think that's maybe an important distinction to make. Like, what makes a girl boss different from a feminist?
A girl boss is someone tied to the spoils of capitalism, and a feminist is just a person who thinks that we should all have the same things.
Yeah, yeah. And I think Girlboss specifically as well, there's like a whiteness that's very, I mean, there's a reason I saw myself in these women is because they were just like a different white brown-haired women. And I was like, me, finally.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, that's the point. I mean, a lot of the Girlboss material was sold to us and marketed us because we would buy it. It wasn't because they really gave a shit about if we felt empowered. It wasn't really about if it was valuable or if it was making a difference. Target doesn't sell Pride collection wear because they are super invested in queer people feeling like they can look like the rainbow. They sell it because someone will purchase it.
Well, yeah, like when we're like, oh, how do we define Girlboss era? We're both of us are just listing things that
it's
were
stuff
sold.
to buy,
right? Yeah,
it's stuff to buy and wear. That was the point of it. Was to this is something I can own, so I can indicate to other people what my politics are, but also like my fortitude.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us were coming out of the bimboification of the early aughts too. So there was this real yearning for legitimacy and weight. Women wanted to feel a little more substantial. And so that's not lost on me.
Yeah.
And I think it's like happening again because we had another bimbo era mid-pandemic. There was this kind of interesting resurgence of it. And now we are in this split chasm of trad wife versus Girlboss 2.0.
Yeah.
Where they're starting to come back and, you know, not just some of the figures themselves, but the language about this with multi-level marketing schemes and the way that they talk to women about being able to own your business and with, you know, more and more people having to be self-employed or have 2-3 jobs to try to get through
and
this.
Spinning that as empowering rather than a consequence of
a devastating consequence of a lack of social safety net in one of the largest countries in the world. Yes. Yeah, but it's the girl boss ethos is about that which you can buy and that which you can sell.
Yeah, right. And in practice, like, you know, there's the image of it, and then in practice of it, we see a lot of the same story where it's, you know, as these girl bosses all rose, they all fell, many of which in these very public cancellations that often came about from their whiteness, rewarding whiteness, or like overlooking employees of color, keeping them at the bottom, if not directly harming them. And so it's kind of, I mean, when I was doing research for this episode, it's kind of crazy how one after another this really did all happen. And I teased this to you earlier, and you seemed so excited for this game. So, and this game is Guess the Girl Boss. Okay. And so what I'm going to do, and this is not going to be a long game, there's just three examples where I'm going to read you an excerpt from the sort of takedown that was written. You have to see if you can tell me either the name of the girl boss or like the thing that they were associated with. So this one, I'm only reading this excerpt because it is new to me. I did not remember this from the initial cancellation. So what organization does this give to you? So here's the quote. At one community event planned at the suggestion of a friend of blank, Black employees served a crew of redheads as they discussed the societal woes of gingers. According to 2 employees who were present, the women demanded a total of 18 free bottles of wine and stayed past the blank's closing time. When a staff member asked them to leave, one redhead called her a bitch. It's incredible.
It's a restaurant?
Not a restaurant, but sort of a space where women gathered.
Oh, it's The Wing.
Yes.
It's Audrey Gelman's The Wing. Yeah. I thought that was the first thing I thought, but okay.
No, I know that. Yeah. I was saying it's kind of an unfair example to start with because the real kind of cancellation of Audrey Gelman came with, projecting this image of a feminist utopia. Under the surface, Black women of color, they were not advanced and like in cases like this, made to be servers at an event about redhead disempowerment. Completely, it's interesting. Like,
well, if you're spending any time online, you know that redheads are now considered Black. So,
that's why I thought this was so funny to because this was it was
prescient, very prescient.
March 2020 is when this one happened. Okay, here's another one.
Okay,
all right, this one's going to be hard because it's a little vague. Name was infamous for tearing into people on Slack. This is an employee's quote. You could hear her typing and you knew something bad was going to happen. Yet while her feedback was almost always sent online, its effects were felt in the real world, often when employees burst into tears. Employees were asked to work exceedingly long hours and limit their paid time off. Their projects were brutally criticized by executives on public Slack channels, and they were reprimanded for not answering messages immediately, even late at night and on weekends. Pretty vague.
That's like any company. Was it one of those like period underwear
really
companies?
I guess really close is not close, but I can. It
feels like a
same story.
Yeah.
It's just like so. This one is Away. So that's the CEO.
Steph.
Steph Corey is the person infamous for tearing into people on Slack.
Yeah.
But yes, the Thanks period underwear had like basically an identical. issue.
That's the one I remember.
Yeah, and then last one. Some employees bristled at Blank's management style. She put pressure on the social media team, which was told to like replies to the brand's Instagram photos within an hour. When employees left the company, she blocked them on her Instagram account. And in June, an anonymous email that claimed to be written by 14 employees criticized Blank and was distributed to the board and a group of executives. It mentioned the numerous exits of senior executives as a huge red flag and said employees worried that if they disagreed with Blank's decisions, even if citing data, they could be fired.
I don't know. She sounds amazing, though.
I know, she sounds like my newest friend. Yeah. So that's Ty Haney. And she is the sort of original founder of Outdoor Voices, which is the exercise wear startup, now big. Well, now used to be big, now back to being downsized company.
Yeah.
And I'm highlighting these 3 women specifically because they are the women cited in a Bloomberg piece by Beth Cowitt called Revenge of the Girlbosses. And the deck is, after losing their jobs in a very public fashion, the women who founded companies such as Outdoor Voices, Away, and The Wing are back. And so I'll just run through really quickly what they're doing now. In 2022, Audrey Gelman, who was in charge of The Wing, opened the Six Bells, which is a country store inspired by a fictional town she created called Barrows Green. The store is in Cobble Hill in Brooklyn. You can buy, it's very tradwifey, speaking of like quilts, beeswax. I want to say I look back on my girl boss days and I'm different, but I own something from
Do you love this shit? You love this shit. Yeah, I can see it in your eyes.
I have a set of like wax grapes from there.
Jesus, you would have to hold a gun to my head to get me to go in.
Oh, no, sorry. There's soap grapes. There's soap grapes. I'm so sorry, everyone.
Sorry, everybody. There's soap grapes. That changes everything.
I have those. And then now recently...
How much were the soap grapes?
I'm sure they were $40. But she kind of does a follow-up to that because that store is still kicking. But the Six Bells Countryside Inn is a hotel that opened upstate this summer. Very similar vibes. And then Steph Corey from Away. This is actually last year, but she launched a children's brand, a developmental brand. It's called Charm Spring. I don't have children, so I think that's the barrier between me understanding what this is.
But normally you would be there in a heartbeat.
Normally, I would be bringing my
giant
soap grapes.
IKEA bag stuffed full with weird
I'm sure
knits.
in like 3 to 5 years I'll be shopping at this place. But
that's beautiful.
Yeah, less compelling to me. And then Ty Haney, this is like the big news recently, is back. I'm saying big news. I'm like, you're like, I don't give a fuck.
Can't wait.
But she's back at Outdoor Voices after being ousted sort of during this turmoil. So I guess I know the answer, but I have this question written down. Scaachi, do any of these comebacks excite you?
No. No, they don't excite me because they're not interesting. Mm-hmm. Like starting a little shop in Brooklyn is like not that compelling.
Yeah.
Like a country store in Cobble Hill. Okay,
what about soap grapes?
I gotta say, I think I can find soap grapes in every neighborhood in Brooklyn.
Here's the thing, you literally can.
Right.
Because
so
I've seen them in other places.
I know, I know exactly what you're talking about. And it's like, if I need to spend $52 for no reason, I can do that anywhere.
Oh my God, there are so many places that would welcome me with open arms to do
like
that.
A kid's clothing brand, similarly, I don't have kids, so what does that mean for me? You know, Ty going back to Outdoor Voices. I mean, they're just... It's not even interesting. It's just not interesting.
Yeah.
This is just what CEOs do. This is kind of the CEO shuffle. And I think this is a little genderless here because men and women both do this, where they do something bad and then they go to another company and they do it again.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think when this article came out, I was seeing some interesting reactions to it. And one kind of took a little bit of what you're saying now, that like, this is a gender thing because you've like grouped 3 women doing it, but it is a trend, but it's also like, not necessarily notable, but it's just kind of like we will click on anything with a girl boss framing, or some people will. I know, I can tell already, you will not. But I think we are in this space of maybe reevaluating that time period. We like love nostalgia, but also love to like look back and reflect. And it seems like there's a little bit of that happening because there's this piece in The Cut. It's by a writer named Samita Mukhopadhyay. So she writes, much of the critique of the girl boss trope was legitimate, perhaps inevitable. It was infantilizing while also pushing a near impossible template of success. And there was always something facile about the notion that a female leader could, on her own, solve the problems inherent to capitalism or startup culture. But certain aspects of the backlash have felt misdirected. Women can certainly be bad leaders, yet they're also held to standards that their male counterparts never are, and often the very brand of bombastic leadership that is rewarded in men is punished in women. Focusing solely on these women's professional disintegrations failed to address the forces that produced them. The investor who suggested they tap into the women's market and dangled a check, the imperative to grow at the expense of everything else. I am curious what you think about that. Because I think I'm in such a complicated place with this sort of reevaluating of the girl boss, because you have to hold like 2 difficult truths, which is that these women were not immune from the racism and regressiveness that like women's media, like I think was promised to be a solution to. And also I do think women's media and women's companies are put in this little side box, often by like a male investor, and it's a little bit like, okay, you guys like fight amongst yourselves and like everyone else will just kind of keep going on. But what do you think?
I agree with what she wrote. I think it's sort of like the female billionaire thing, where it's like, we have our first female billionaire, and it's like, okay, I don't need more girl cops. Like, that's not really going to solve this. There are structural problems that yield these kinds of careers and careerists across the board. In the same way, when we talk about scams on scamfluencers, it's very clear what kind of societal pressures are happening to people that forces them into these corners, and then they make bad decisions because they're already in the corner. Some of that is happening here. Some of these businesses come from a pure, honest place, and people just want to like build something interesting. Yeah. And then some of them are just kind of full of shit from the get. Like Elizabeth Holmes, I think, never had an idea of how this was going to work. And that was really just nonsense. And she's playing with people's lives. Yeah. So that's a different game. I think the balance is between making sense of those complexities that do sort of create this chaotic girl bossification of certain companies, and that hold them to a much higher standard than men, for sure, without a doubt. But holding that with also the other side of it of like, come on.
Yeah. Yes. Right.
Like, I don't want to infantilize you, and I don't think you need to play a victim here.
Yes.
You are, a 30-year-old white woman who went to a nice school and like came up with money, and like that girl who sold like nothing to Morgan Stanley and then they tried to sue her. Like, good for you.
No, yeah.
Fine, go for it. Like, but let's be serious now. Like, there are two things happening, I think, with those sorts of female bosses, and you have to, unfortunately, as a consumer, decide which one is the loudest piece and which one do you want to listen to. But that's true of everybody. Everybody's just a person.
Yeah.
Everybody, people are just people, and they have all these reasons for making their bad choices. And then there are also the same environmental factors, but it influences people in different ways.
When we come back, we'll talk about what the Girl Boss 2.0 era looks like and why it's already flopping. What you were saying about the infantilization is exactly where I kind of was landing with this too, where it's like, it can be very much true that you were up against structures that were kind of a losing battle, or that the interest in this is rooted in misogyny, because these types of exposés, even if they're written, they're not written like entertainment the way that like these are. But then you can't use that as a shield for all like the very legitimate things you're being accused of in the article. And it's very, I feel like the Kardashians employ this all the time, where you like come with them for a criticism and they're like, I hate when women don't support other women.
Yeah, I did a profile a little while ago, a couple years ago, about this woman who was unhappy with me, as many of my sources are by the end of it, and said to me, Scaachi, I don't think you'd be grilling a man this hard. And that was one of those things where I was like, girl,
yes,
you have no idea what I would do to a man.
I know. I was like, you don't know how I speak to men. Yeah.
This is I am handling you very gently.
Yeah.
But that idea of I should not be criticized because the men are not is like the framework of white feminism.
Exactly.
And I don't want to do that.
Yeah. And I'm wondering why now we're kind of softening to this, because there seems to be culturally a moment, and I think it's what you described earlier, where there's rising conservatism and like culturally, and then coming up against liberal, I think, nostalgia because of that, but it's allowing a sort of rose-colored glasses view of the past. I mean, I think about this in the way that Girls has been revisited, and I think especially with Too Much coming out, which is Lena Dunham's latest show. The sentiment is very much like, we've needed her this whole time. Like, why did she go away? Like, God, this is filling a void. And we see that even with like the return of the Outdoor Voices founder. All the comments when this started to be teased was like, oh my God, like, it's been really bad without her. We really need her. And to Ty's credit, in her story, there's no accusations of like racism.
Yeah.
It just seems to be kind of like someone who was young and
she was annoying.
Yeah, which like
not a crime.
Go off.
Yeah.
But it's okay to be nostalgic for like what I think is associated with like Obama era optimism, but I don't know if the answer to rising conservatism is going back to a place where we're like, even if we're not like overtly doing the problematic behavior, we're certainly allowing it and like overlooking it. And at a certain point, that's, especially in this environment, even more dangerous, basically, if we're willing to be like, but she wrote a good show or whatever.
I think the Lena Dunham stuff is completely separate from the Girl Boss stuff. Lena Dunham is an artist who people resented, and then she got fat, and then people really fucking hated her.
Yeah.
Like, that's a different thing. She was selling us products, as everybody is, but she wasn't selling us like a T-shirt or a way of life. We just decided she was.
Yeah.
And I think obviously the renewed interest in her is because she has a new show coming out, so she's been doing press. It's been a while since Girls was on the air.
Yeah.
So people are always doing rewatches. I think it's kind of like Sex and the City, where every couple of years people are like, have you heard about the show? And it's like, I've heard about Sex and the City.
Yeah.
In terms of like these other girl boss characters sort of returning, I think it's sort of like the thing of like when you're exhausted and depressed and you can't watch a new TV show.
Yeah.
Because you just want to watch something where you kind of know what happens and you just can't bear any anticipation. Your nervous system is fried. I think our nervous systems are fried culturally, all of us. And so it's kind of easier to wrap our heads around Anna Delvey because it's like, well, I know her.
Yeah.
And I know what's wrong with her.
Right. So I'm not going to be,
I won't be surprised.
It
won't feel like anything. It'll be convenient and easy. And I think that's why we're collectively more inclined to be like, whatever.
Yeah.
And yes, these women do have to behave better than men for sure. And it's worth pointing out that overwhelmingly the list provided, it's like bad behavior, certainly. None of these women put their hands on anybody at work.
Right.
And with men, they do. Or there are real trespasses and malfeasances, and those guys end up running other Fortune 500 companies. Yeah. These women yelled at people and, helmed, it sounds like pretty racist environments, which is bad and merits consequence. But the consequence is that they own a little shop in Cobble Hill.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like that is actually the consequence. Like she won't return to the same place. It will never be what it was. That's unfortunate, but there are consequences there. The nostalgia is in like, whatever. Like we're tired. We're fried. Yeah. We're all fried.
And I think we do, even if we have this nostalgia, and even if we're like sort of being like, oh my gosh, Revenge of the Girl Boss, I don't think many of us believe in it in the way that, like, are consuming it earnestly, the way it was, in my case, earnestly consumed, in 2015. Because what's interesting about some of the comebacks mentioned in this article is that they're actually kind of flopping.
Yeah.
So their interview went to the Six Bells Inn, Audrey Gelman's new venture. And the thing is, if I have a chance to go there, will I? Absolutely. So, like, let me just start with that. But it has some really eviscerating lines, and I just pulled out an excerpt about what the hotel is like. They wrote, "It's rare to get to spend the night in someone else's personality disorder, but it's not as scary as it sounds. It's mostly boring. There's nothing to do in the hotel. No pool, no spa, no massage. The rooms don't even have televisions. They'd ruin the aesthetic. And the restaurant stays closed until 5. And so it's like, to me, that's almost like a metaphor for what exactly was wrong with that first era, which was Girlboss was like all about image. And then we need more there now. Like it's not enough to just be staying somewhere where we can Instagram it, because that photo also won't get likes anymore. Like the environment has changed, and I think that's also what's happening to Outdoor Voices, because this is from a writer named Rachel Carton. She's a newsletter called Link in Bio, and it's called What Does Doing Things Mean in 2025? And it's basically about how when Outdoor Voices first wiped their Instagram grid, they refollowed the founder. Everyone noticed, and it created like all this hype. This Instagram account called People, Brands, and Things, they made a post about how it looked like Outdoor Voices was maybe going back to its roots, rebranding. It was one of their most popular posts. It had like 200 comments of people being like, thank God. And then when Outdoor Voices did announce the return, this was on July 27th, and it had a video. That video had over 21K likes, over 1.5K comments. But 2 weeks later, Rachel noticed the engagement on the account has just like plummeted. The reel they posted yesterday has 180 likes. Her theory seems to be that beyond like Ty is back, they didn't really have any kind of new story to tell. And so again, it was like surface level, an idea being presented to people, but nothing that backed it up. Plus, people realize in the interim that Ty Haney is like an Elon Musk fangirl. Why do you think this is happening? Like, why do you think they're coming back and everyone's like, no thanks?
They're coming back because they have to work.
Yeah.
Everybody has to work. It's not working because the stuff that they were selling and are selling is just not that good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, I've never purchased anything from Outdoor Voices. Mm-hmm. A cursory Google search tells me it is shirts.
Yeah, and so obviously I have Outdoor Voices in my closet. Right, every single thing that is getting mentioned here, I'm sure
it's like nice enough, whatever. No, but it's tops and skirts and workout wear and bras. So, like, if a product has to be revolutionary at a certain point for people to keep coming back, like if Elizabeth Holmes somehow figured out a way to do anything medically, people would flock to her even now.
Yeah.
She can't do that. But this is just like Old Navy clothes that are expensive, more expensive. It's not that interesting. There's nothing particular of note. And so all you have is the branding.
Yeah.
And the entirety of the branding is this one lady.
Right.
Like,
right.
It's sort of, and it happens in lots of ways, like in lots of different formats. Like you can look at Glossier, which Melissa Meltzer wrote a great book about Glossier, but looking at how the brand changed, and that I don't really think is Girlboss necessarily. That's just a woman who owns a company, and it's not folded at all and still exists, and they still have products that I like, but the branding and the girl who uses that stuff, and the girl who's selling it to you, the girl in the bathroom who hands you her little glitter stick, like that is part of it. And so if Audrey is not popular, then the wing is not popular. And if she cannot return to any sense of glory, it's not going to work. If Ty is not liked, then Outdoor Voices is nothing. It's skirts, man. So I think that's why it's not really working. And I think with other companies that you see that are run by women, if people are going back to them, it's because the product is kind of like undeniable in a way. I think you see this with lots of makeup brands for sure. Like I think like Charlotte Tilbury says crazy stuff on the internet, right? But people keep buying her setting powders. And I think that's like a version of that, you know. Like there are different versions of it, but the reality is that like these products are just not that good. They're not offering you anything that you could not get elsewhere. And now the story is muddled. And if you are a consumer who purchases, as you say you used to, based off of the vibe's bad. So no one's going to buy that.
What you were saying about the woman handing you Glossier it made me think about the fact that I think also during this time, social media changed so much in and of itself, but then because of that, how we like get product recommendations, honestly, is people market stuff now by being like, this is the viral thing. And what that really means is like everyone is using this thing. And it's more so about, I want to have the thing that everyone else is doing and that everyone else loves versus I want to be like this one singular person.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It's a good question. I'm not a 16-year-old girl anymore.
Okay, that's interesting.
And so I think like 16-year-old girls operate in one way and I'm an adult. And so I may be doing it in a different way.
We should have a 16-year-old
You honestly
girl
should.
on the third mic.
I would be really curious what a very young woman thinks about all this stuff because she didn't live through it the first time.
Right.
So I'd be really compelled by what she thinks about this weird-ass font that's in every fucking mug that you try to buy. I don't know. I think it's hard to say. I do think people want what everybody wants. I think that's why I'm seeing the word peptide on every lip product. But I do still think the who matters. I mean, I don't think Rhode Beauty would do what it has done without Hailey Bieber being the person selling it to you. She's very pretty.
Yeah.
So even if you don't know a lot about her, her PR people have done amazing work, sort of like placing her in the right places. I'm getting press releases about her nails every couple of months.
There was a video that went viral recently of an influencer who cried because she was opening press packages and none of them were from Rhode. And then she was really sad that she didn't get one from Rhode.
Right. It's like, it's, you know, yeah. So it is also about who, for whatever reason. And her stranglehold on 20-year-old women is really confusing to me, which is why I'm like, I'd love to hear from a 19-year-old because I don't get it. But the who is still important. And you know, I've said this before that I think if Hailey got a divorce, her business would become she would make $1 trillion. But like,
business advice
literally, like all she's got to do is bounce, and she'll make so much more money.
Yeah,
but like. That is part of it. And her lifestyle is a part of like why girls want to buy this effortless phone case where your lip gloss slides into it because you're a girl on the go and you're a casual beauty and you don't even carry a purse. You just throw your jeans on and put blah, blah, blah. Like
great jeans are passed down.
Great jeans are passed. Great jeans are passed down. She sounds like she has had Novocaine put in her mouth and then was told to go to a biology 101 class and explain that the mitochondria is the powerhouse
She was like,
of the
you know
cell.
how they'll spin people around and then like with blindfold and then they hit a ball. That was her doing
that's
the
how
jeans
she sounded.
commercial.
Yeah, Jesus. But that stuff is so important, and I think like this girl boss stuff, they're hoping to still cling to that which I just don't really exist in the same way.
Yeah,
but there's a version of it that's still around. We just don't know. We're still finding words for it.
Yeah,
you know, Nara Smith.
Wow, it's so convenient that you brought that up because
is doing that. She is the new girl boss. Like she could sell a bunch of women like a butter churning instrument.
Yeah.
What's going on? We live in the industrial age. I'm not making my own butter, but she is, because that's her business.
Yes.
She's lying to us about it just being her family. Some of it is, but it's her business.
Yeah.
That's how she has time to hand pluck the seeds out of a strawberry, and delicately place them on one cupcake for her weird husband, wwho's always got 10 toothpicks hanging out of his mouth.
He looks like a scarecrow.
I hate both of them, and I don't want them anywhere near me. Both of them look like Tim Burton characters. I don't like it.
Yeah. It's interesting you bring up, one, sort of tradwives, and two, the stilted delivery of someone like Sydney Sweeney, because I want to play this clip that I think is when we talk about like what is the modern girl boss, like they wouldn't necessarily use that word, but who is occupying that space in culture right now. I think this clip of Katie Miller, who is the wife of the absolute gremlin, Stephen Miller, you
don't like it?
She's launched, so
he looks like Dobby.
He's behind some of the most atrocious things happening in the Trump administration, but what he actually is the White House Deputy Chief of Staff. But so
he's
his
Dobby,
wife,
the house elf,
and moonlights as Dobby. His wife, Katie Miller, has launched a podcast, and on Twitter, she released sort of a promo clip of the podcast. We're just going to listen to her little clip.
Hi, I'm Katie Miller. Welcome to my podcast and welcome to my living room. You may be wondering what I'm doing here hosting a podcast. It seems these days just about everyone has a podcast. For years, I've watched from the sidelines as people I know, people I respect, have hosted TV shows, radio shows, podcasts, you name it. And I thought, hey, I could do that too. And why? Because for years I've seen that there isn't a place for conservative women to gather online. There isn't a place for a mom like me, mom of 3 young kids, 4, 3, and almost 2, and a wife, and trying to do a career, eat healthy, work out. There isn't a place for a mom like me. And so I wanted to create that space where we have real, honest conversations with people across the political spectrum and across the world to get lifestyle information, news, laugh with our friends, gossip about what's going on in the world from our perspective.
Where will women with big, fat, juicy, natural asses go and feel safe? Where will hot women like me with heaving, natural double Ds and feel safe?
Fertile women.
In America.
So the first thing really that like we can't ignore is her delivery. And it fully sounds exactly like the TikTok creator, Caitlin Riley. She has this character that's like maid of honor giving a speech. And it's just her going, if you would have told me.
Dear Steven, if you would have told me 15 years ago that I would be here marrying you on our 4th anniversary, I would have done you crazy.
Yeah, that's literally how she's talking. She has like, for so many years, I've wanted a podcast. But I think listening to that clip, I'm thinking of like what this image of what like a modern woman looks like in this like culturally conservative era. And it is like she loves the word like badass, and she goes to the gym and she works, but she also like motherhood is still the center of that, and more so the fact that her motherhood abilities are not impacted by her desire to work, like sort of presenting this idea that like we've been told we have to choose and we don't. It's not impressive. You have to be both. You have to be a mom.
Well, I don't think it's not lost on me that the women that people talk about in this girl boss conversation are women who are really young and are not married yet because they're not at an age where they kind of need to be socially. We're not talking about anybody who's 42.
Right.
Everybody is 20 to 31, maybe. Audrey was really young when she started The Wing. She was in her 20s, I believe.
I saw this because I'm younger than her, and so the whole time I was watching this, I was like, "What an impressive older mentor!" And then
she's
now,
like 5 years older.
No, and now I'm like, I'm 32, and I'm like, she was 28.
Yeah,
at the Wing?
Exactly. Yeah, like they're really young, and so the negotiation they have made in the public in that way they don't have to say it because they're young enough that those things could still very much and often do happen. Audrey did have children. You know, a lot of these people get married and have kids, and you know, that was even a part of the Elizabeth Holmes trial at the end that she met a man, right? And then it was like, well, maybe she'll get some sort of compassionate release because this boy will take care of her. Like that's how that works. And so nobody's calling you know, a 50-year-old woman who gets a patent on something and starts her business, then a girl boss. It's just a woman with a business.
Yeah.
But these are terms used for women in their 20s, girls in their 20s, girls, because they're not married. You're a girl until you get married or until you have children. And so they don't even have to have that conversation yet. And then publicly we get to play a game of like, who's she going to be with? Who's going to be strong enough to like manage that? Because she's such an impressive person.
Yeah.
I get that. I'm old. Yeah. So like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, like you're going to like that's the gig. We're not even having that conversation because we're like, well, she's 24.
Right. And well, you also see this happen when like a prominent female figure, like online, especially if she's a creator, like has been single and then she has a kid. And then immediately all the like snark is like, oh my God, her Instagram is just about kids now. Like, oh my God, it's just about being a mom. Like,
you can't win.
Yeah.
There's no winning.
And then before we go to the final sort of question of today's episode, I am going to play a clip of your favorite person, Nara Smith, talking about this idea. Like, because I feel like this also is emblematic of this new conservative woman, girl boss. So here she is describing her work.
People always tell me she has a full production team and a nanny and staff at home and a cleaning crew. And I'm like, it's literally me, my iPhone, a tripod. Sometimes Lucky's like, do you want help filming? And I'm like, no, because it needs to be like a certain, I'm like very type A. So I'm like, no, it's me and my tripod. It's okay. And then he does cleanup. Bless his heart. Because at the end of my videos, there's like a pile of dishes. But people always assume these things and they're like, she has a nanny. No, we don't. Lucky and I tag team. And when I'm filming, he's with the children. When he has to travel for work, I'm with the kids. And now it's at a point where we should be looking at getting help because it's getting quite a lot and we don't have family that live by. But all these assumptions based on a piece of content that 99% is just coincidence has always been really baffling to me.
And for me, like when I hear all that, and again, she does say this at the end, but it feels very similar to the rhetoric of like, I walked uphill both ways to get to school, where it's like, no, you should. It sounds like you have way too much going on. And there's
some help.
I mean, this is, again, I think the can't win because she seems to be responding perhaps to like criticism that she's faking it. But then there's this other side of the coin of having to be like, no, I'm not. Here's what I do. And it's like, no, this isn't sustainable, and this also isn't like inspiring to hear. It makes me like very sad that what empowerment has to look like right now is both of these career, motherhood, both kind of done solo and not complaining about it.
That's how to be a woman. You just bite the leather and you poop out that kid and you keep it moving.
God.
Like that. What do you mean? That's like the whole, that's the whole gig.
Well, that's hard for me to hear as someone who went into women's media and was like, nothing bad will happen to women ever again.
Oh boy,
that
did you learn.
Really, really hard to hear.
I wish I had known. I would have warned you before you walked in.
No, I got
You got an education.
I got some really good embroidery out of it.
That's really nice.
So that's good. But I guess the question that I want to end on is that it kind of seems like our options now are conservative Katie Miller girl boss or liberal girl boss, like some of the women we were talking about, who does not actually practice the stated values and therefore might as well, in terms of like impact, be conservative. So it's like lose-lose. So is it time to give up on the girl boss? Perhaps you'd say it's long past time to give up on the girl boss.
Yeah, I don't think anybody should get their cues on anything.
Mm-hmm.
Moral turpitude, emotional well-being, a strength of self, quality of character. I don't think you should get any of those things from someone who is trying to sell you something.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Myself included.
Yeah.
Most people in media are trying to sell you a product. And so if you're trying to get your sense of esprit from a business, you've already lost.
And with that in mind, Scaachi Koul's new book, Sucker Punch,
except
out
for that
now.
one. That one's just fine. You should buy two.
Okay, that's the show. We'll be back in your feed on Wednesday, so definitely subscribe. That way you never miss an episode. Leave us a rating and a review in Apple or Spotify and tell your friends about us. You can follow us on Twitter and now Instagram at ICYMI_pod. We've started posting drama explainers, timelines, and meme dumps for each episode, and if I do say so myself, they're hilarious. Or if you prefer electronic snail mail, send us an email at ICYMI@slate.com.
ICYMI is produced by Vic Whitley-Berry, Candace Lim, and Kate Lindsay. We had production help this week from Kevin Bendis. Thanks, Kevin. Daisy Rosario is our senior supervising producer. Mia Lobel is Slate's executive producer of podcasts, and Hillary Fry is Slate's editor-in-chief. See you online.
Or at the Six Bells Countryside Inn.